What's up, y'all? It's your boy D. I'm here with my man T, and this is Saturday Morning Traffic, the greatest podcast, not the latest podcast. And on the last episode of the full course series, Shooting Guard Edition, we are debating Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And with that being said, the fact that we're debating Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, I think it'd be great for us to start the episode off with a moment of silence for Kobe. All right, with that being said, we're going to jump into the episode. We're introducing one of my favorite guests. He's a pastor. He's a doctor. He's a man of many talents. You know, he plays basketball too, Dr. Ortiz, man. We want to go ahead and bring him on, man. I feel like he can bring a lot to the conversation of who's better, you know, Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. So let's see how it goes.
Absolutely. Let's bring in our favorite guests, bro. All right, let's get into it.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, here is the Dr. Ortiz, all caps. All right, what's going on, man?
Well, how y'all doing? Good to be
Fantastic.
back. I was always excited to talk some hoop with you guys, and so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
What you been up to lately?
What's that?
What you been up to lately since we talked to you last month? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I played my first game of basketball on outside and burnt gas. It was just rough. 4 months of not playing ball, full court. It was rough. But yeah, other than that, you know, same old. We got the church going.
Nice.
There at Victory Baptist Church in Fremont. Still talking watches on the Horologian podcast. And
Awesome.
so, yeah, just trying to do a little bit of everything.
All right, man. But we are here for one thing and one thing only, to debate Kobe versus Jordan. So let's get into it. All right, guys, here it is. Kobe versus Jordan. Well, let's the one and only Dr. Ortiz go first. Go ahead.
All right. Well, you may not know this, but I am a diehard Kobe fan. I've been watching Kobe since they started talking about him coming out of Lower Merion. I started following when Shaq came to LA and everything. I thought, man, this is going to be incredible, because I watched as Hakeem Olajuwon destroyed Shaq, and I was such a Shaq fan at the time. So when he came to LA, when he came to my team, and I was so excited that he was going to actually come and he could possibly bring a championship to LA. And then you got Kobe, this young kid who, you know, everyone's talking about how skillful he is, and so I figured, oh man, this is going to be awesome to see these two together. And I've watched Kobe his whole career. I've seen Kobe when he was playing garbage time his first couple of years. Then when they finally brought Phil Jackson in, and Phil Jackson started putting in some responsibility on Kobe. And watching Kobe go from, you know, averaging like 7 points a game to averaging like 25, 26, it was just incredible. I watched Jordan when I was younger. Jordan was the dude, you know, growing up. When you played ball, you know, 5th, 6th grade, you played ball. Whenever you did a layup, your tongue hung out your mouth, and you were going up just like Jordan did. And before there was the Kobe where you shot the trash into the basket,
Kobe!
we would say Jordan.
Kobe.
it was Jordan before that. And so we would. Yeah, that was back in my day. We would we'd get our trash and be like, Jordan in the corner, Jordan. And so I've seen both of these guys play.
Right.
I've been a big fan of Kobe. But if I'm having to give an edge to either one of them, I'm going to say that Jordan has the edge. And the reason why I think he has the edge, both Kobe and Jordan can score. I mean, they were prolific scorers. However, I think Kobe was a better scorer than Jordan, pure scorer. I think while both of them were incredible on defense, multiple first-team defensive players and just incredible defensively, I believe Jordan was more of a lockdown defender than Kobe. Passing, if I'm not mistaken, Kobe is ranked number 1 among shooting guards all time in assists. People don't normally see Kobe as a passer, but he was an incredible passer. In fact, a lot of his highlights early in his career was these passes that he would drop off to Shaq, whether it be behind his back, behind another player, as he's scooping it underneath another player. He was an incredible passer. And I'd give the edge of passing to Kobe. When it comes to just that sheer end game, both of these guys were incredible at the end of the games. But Jordan, you didn't want him to have the ball with 30 seconds left on the clock or 24 seconds left on the clock. You did not want him to take that last shot, because if he took that last shot, it would be the last shot of the game. And so with all of that, both of these are very comparable. However, I think one of the key things is Jordan led his team to 6 championships and was undefeated in the finals. Kobe, while yes, Jordan had Pippen, Kobe had Shaq and Pau Gasol. That kind of helped him get to that spot. And even still, they weren't perfect at the finals. And so I'm going to give the edge to Jordan.
Go ahead, D.
I grew up with Kobe. I really, recently discovered the story behind Michael Jordan, not necessarily the player, because of the simple fact that The Last Dance taught me, majority of what I needed to know about Jordan, other than my own research that I've already done. As far as Kobe's concerned, I remember vividly I was playing Deer Hunter on Xbox. The old Xbox with the fat controller. I'm playing Deer Hunter. I had just killed a buck or something. They ended my game. I had to restart. That's neither here nor there. And I hear my grandpa in the living room. That boy got 50. I keep playing. That boy got 62. And and when I heard him say 81, and then he was like, "Oh, the game over." My granddad, that's our connection. Basketball. And we always would have conversations about basketball. He always made me want to do research about it. So, I could develop, I'm going to kill him in this argument. He ain't going to beat me this time. He ain't going to beat me this time. And every time he would talk about Kobe, he's like, man, ain't nobody doing it like that. But, nobody's playing like Kobe. And I think if we're talking about as far as who's more clutch, I think it's a tie. Now, if we were to sit up here and watch top 10, like a top 10 of who's more clutch, Jordan or it'd be, then it would be more debatable because we got visuals for it. I think, or Dr. Ortiz is right, I think Michael is a better lockdown defender than Kobe. As far as a better shooter, I won't necessarily agree. And as far as, who his teammates were, I feel like Jordan's always had an action-packed starter 5. He made players better around him. I feel like it took Kobe to develop that. You know what I mean? Because he, when he was in LA, his first couple years, and anybody that's a Kobe fan remembers back when Kobe had the fro. And everybody remembers before he had that season where he was going crazy, leading up to the dunk contest, the championship, and all that good, all that good stuff. Everybody remembers that video what Kobe did where he just had that terrible game. He was airballing. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing.
It's the Jazz.
Just the whole game was just awful. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. And then it was like, okay, that season, it gradually got better. Then he came back that next season with the afro. And then that next season, that's when you were like, okay, Kobe's got something to say. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, it was like, okay, he's got a 3-peat with Shaq. Can he do it by himself? So when he got those last 2 rings of his career, that solidified. And a lot of people don't talk about that Orlando game. Kobe was injured. Kobe was injured most of that. He was injured most of that. I think he had like a fractured Achilles, a broken finger. His arm and shoulder was messed up. And if you look at a lot of those plays, you can see in his face he's in pain, but he's in Mamba mode. You know? So it's like, to me, with Jordan didn't care if you were good, bad. If you did, it could be something as small as, you know what, you cut me off in traffic and you play for the other team, I'm finna score 99 points. Like, Jordan was disrespectful with it. Jordan was disrespectful. Kobe talked his mess. Don't get me wrong, you know, Tim Duncan talked his mess too, but when Kobe would disrespect you, he would disrespect you with scoring. Jordan would disrespect you with scoring, and he would disrespect you with his words. Even if you were on his team. If you scored 2 points and one of those 2 points was because he was supposed to get the ball and he missed and you got it, you might have an argument later. That's my point, man, why you take my point. You see what I'm saying? Like, I just think they're carbon copies of each other, but the mentality is different. Jordan went on that court. You know, Kobe was consistent at getting better. Jordan went on that. Jordan when he got better and he knew he was better, that winner mentality almost reached a level of like, yo, this dude's kind of a psychopath. Like, the Detroit Pistons keep beating me. Guess what? I'm about to put on such and such pound of muscles and come through and kick your ass. You know, and it's just it's almost really hard to pick a side. Like, I want to say Jordan and I want to say Kobe. You feel what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna lie to either of y'all, man. I'm indifferent, man. I don't know who to pick. This is the first time we've had this situation. I don't know who to pick, bro. I'm on both sides, man. You can make a good argument for both sides. No one's better than the other. You don't have Jordan. You don't have Kobe. You know? So I just like, hey, I like peanut butter and jelly with the grape and the strawberry, man.
So who are you taking?
Who am I taking?
Yeah.
I'm taking my ass home. Nah, man. If I had to pick, it'd be Phil Jackson. Because he played a part in both their careers.
Phil Jackson, the ultimate GOAT.
The ultimate GOAT. He's the real GOAT in this situation, man. No other coach is doing what he's doing. But nah, man, in all actuality, bro, I grew up with Kobe. I seen Kobe play, man. I'm going to have to rock with A24. I ain't going to lie to you.
Yeah, man. I think this is more of whoever votes, it's a generational thing, right? Because they were so comparable. Kobe did copy the craft of what Jordan did. Like, for me, I grew up, like you were saying, D, grew up on Kobe. That's what it was. Like, 96, bro. That's when I really started watching basketball. Like, really watching basketball. Before that, it was more baseball for me. But once I saw Kobe play, I was like, Kobe for life. Like, so that's I saw on this left hand. I saw this live where Jordan pushes off a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Hits a game winner, right? Game over, series over. And I believe that was 96. No, that was 98. No, 90. Let's see. Yeah, that was
90. It was either 96 or 95.
Yeah, because he didn't have it. He got his last ring, 98.
Yeah, no, that was 96. That was 96. And so, like, for me, Kobe, like, I think he had a longer career. Like, he has more All-Stars, more All-Defensive teams, more All-Star MVPs. But then on the flip side, you look at Jordan, first player ever in history to win Olympics, gold medal, get Defensive Player of the Year and Finals MVP and MVP. Like, that's ridiculous. And so it's more of a or, you know, 1A, 1B, right? I mean, that's why it's hard.
Like
my thing is they both had different starts to their careers where, like you were saying, Devon, like, Kobe didn't really start for 3 years. But he's seen Iverson coming right away starting, Ray Allen already starting, like all these top picks with him starting, and he knows he can put up 25 to 30 a game. But he's coming off bench because of Eddie Jones, who's an all-star player, right? And I think when people talk about Jordan, Kobe, they're like, they don't they forget that mentality, right? Like the whole Mamba mentality. I mean, that's what Jordan had. But when Jordan, I don't know if you guys remember this, Jordan literally told Kobe, "You can wear the shoes, but you will never feel them." Like, to say that to somebody is like, wow. So then, Kobe doesn't talk to his teammate for 2 weeks and then drops 55 on Jordan. Like, that's just a mentality, like, killer, killer, killer. I mean, you can't argue with a 6-0 team finals record, right? But at the same time, on those teams, the first three, okay, because it was Jordan and Pippen. Pippen could not win without Jordan, right? That's what it is. Just like Magic couldn't win without Kareem. Bird couldn't win without McHale, right? Kobe won without Shaq.
And that's what the duo is what I'm talking about. That's like overall, I just think Kobe obviously was the better shooter. I think he was a better offensive player.
If you take away his first 3 years, he's up there averaging almost 30 with Jordan. So like offensively, it's like mute, right? Because during that time it was more mid-range shooting, right? Compared to when Kobe kind of went out to a 3-point range. So that's where he gets more of his points. But overall clutchness, I think like Jordan is. It's hard to say, man. Like, because like Kobe was, I think, the most skilled basketball player of all time. Overall skill, left hand, right hand, doesn't matter. Well, the best hard shot maker of all time too.
Yeah, he's extremely accurate.
Like ridiculous, right? I do have to take Kobe, okay? Just more the fact that, like you were saying, Kobe, 5-2 in the finals,
not bad. He did get robbed twice, potentially almost 3 different times to MVP, so he could have had 4.
Not saying anything about Dirk or the Steve Nash ones, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts on that? Him getting cut from the MVP because he could have had 4. Like
Nash, honestly, Nash was the first one. I'll give Nash. That second one, Nash didn't deserve. It was obviously Kobe because Kobe was destroying the league.
35
Kobe
a game.
Kobe had a garbage team at that time. He had Kwame Brown as his center. That was his second best player. Was Kwame Brown. And he still made the playoffs.
Bonafide scrub.
He really was, and Kobe should have won that MVP. The Steve Nash's second one. But here's something that people don't often mention about Kobe. Jordan had a lot of natural talent.
Yes.
Jordan was incredibly Phil Jackson always talks about Jordan's hands. He had these massive hands that could protect the ball and allow him to maneuver in the air without worrying about cupping the ball. Kobe had small hands. And he didn't have the physical body like Jordan. He was more wiry and lanky but he worked on himself, and he created the skills that he needed in order to be as potent on the court as possible. And which is why when people make the debate about Kobe and Jordan or Kobe or LeBron James, I don't think it's fair because Kobe is, if you take away all his hard work, Kobe is a decent player, above average player. He's a perennial all-star, but he's just an above average player. But you add his hard work, you add his
fierceness,
his hard-headedness to be able to say, I'm just gonna give myself. I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and work out for like 6 hours, eat something, and come back to the gym and shoot around. That's ridiculous. Nobody does that. And that's what made Kobe special. That's why when people look at his stats and compare him to like LeBron or Jordan, Jordan shot a better field goal percentage than Kobe.
Yes.
LeBron shoots a better field goal percentage than Kobe. But Kobe Kobe worked a lot harder for those shots. And and
how many pump
so,
fakes?
Yeah, he had to do the pump fakes. He had to slide through. Oftentimes, he was the only offensive player on the court, and so it was such a difficult road for Kobe. And yeah, I'm not taking anything away from LeBron James because LeBron James had some garbage teams too, but Kobe in himself, he had to work himself to be as good as he was. It didn't just come natural.
Yeah, I think Kobe, like what you're saying, the hard work, where Jordan had natural gifts. Jordan on record still has the best vertical ever. Like, it's ridiculous. And Kobe had I think it was an 8 less inch vertical, but you saw what he could still do. And the vertical is not just a dunking. Vertical is to also get your shot off. Like, that's a big thing, big weapon. And how he resembled Jordan, I mean, that's what it was, his favorite player. But I do think overall, this is why I kind of put Kobe higher, is not only the game, like his playing days, but he's also given back more to the just overall basketball, right? Even when he retired, training at the academy, all these NBA players, these stars, and not even stars, and then transitioning, helping the WNBA as well. I think overall for the culture, the basketball culture, he has done more than Jordan has. Yes, Jordan has the Jordan brand and did all that, but I mean, I just think he's done more. And just growing up, you always just say Kobe, and I think he did. I think Jordan overall, achievement-wise, he had a better career. I think that if you with Kobe,
he didn't want, like he said it in the interview with Shaq, he didn't
want that to be said about him. Meaning Pippen, Jordan couldn't have won without Pippen, right? Magic couldn't have won without Kareem, right? Without Mikhail, Bird doesn't win championship. He didn't want to be in that realm. How good was Jordan? He always had Pippen.
Then in the last 3, he had Pippen and Rodman, right? Kobe never had
2 extra All-Stars on his team
during championship years.
Yeah,
No.
he did. He had the tail end of the Shaq era. He had Karl Malone, Gary Payton. He still had Derek Fisher and.
No. So I mean All-Stars that year, currently that year during the championship run.
All four of those men made the All-Star. Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton.
The only reason why a lot of people don't respect that era is because 90% of the time that whole team Karl Malone and Gary Payton were injured. They were injured. They were still 20 plus players. So yes, they were all-stars. He is right about that. Also, the difference between Kobe and Jordan had way more athleticism than Kobe. Let's be real. That's not as far as like pound for pound, physically, who's better. I feel I can give that to Jordan and not really, think too much about it. But as far as like technique, Kobe is a NBA contortionist. There is shots he literally takes that nobody else can make.
They don't even shoot him.
There's literally a shot. He played Portland. I don't know what year it was, but he played Portland. It was 101. It was 101. No, I think it was 104 to 104. This man stopped in the middle of the game after he was done, doing his, his crossover or whatever, he just backed up further than what he was and just let his shot go. And it wasn't like a bounce, spin around the rim, straight net. Did it twice. Once in fourth quarter and another in overtime to win the game. So it's like, these are just two really hard players to debate. It's like you got a checkbox. You can give some to this side and some to that side, but it's like they're damn near the exact same player. Yeah. Only difference is Jordan's got more athleticism and Kobe's got more technique.
Yeah. Absolutely.
One thing's interesting is that Jordan was completely dominant in his era. There was nobody that could take the reins from Jordan while he was playing. But while Kobe was playing, he had to battle for complete dominance because he had the Steve Nashes, he had the Agent Zeros.
Devon,
would you agree the only reason Steve Nash became relevant was because they took away hand checking?
Yeah, well, and that's what's interesting with Kobe, because Kobe really played over 3 different eras.
Like Vince,
he started off in the Jordan era, and then he was in the midst of the big man era where Shaq and you had guys like Chris Webber and
Garnett.
Yeah, you had all the big men where they were dominant, and then he played toward the tail end of what I call the LeBron James, Steph Curry era. So he really played in 3 different eras, and he had to change his game every time he played.
Yeah.
In order to fit that, because remember in the big man era, he bulked up.
Yeah.
He got real big, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it. He that summer he played with he studied with Hakeem Olajuwon to learn how to do his little dream shake. He was on the block for a lot of that year. The problem was he was getting tired more easy, and carrying that team, it was difficult for him to do that, play that much time and carry all that weight. And so after the All-Star break, he ended up losing a lot of that weight and going back to old Kobe.
Yeah.
But that was interesting. Jordan was dominant no matter what. Jordan played 12 years essentially. For about 10 of those years, he was dominant.
Yeah.
And he was dominant over the Charles Barkleys. He was dominant over the Larry Birds. He was dominant over. Now, granted, they did have, they had some teams that can outdo him, but for the most part, he was dominant as a player.
Individual dominance, basically.
Right.
Yeah, because like when you talk about like that, like they didn't start winning until they got Phil Jackson. Same thing with the Lakers, again winning again without Phil Jackson. Now, do you think? And they both played in their era. They played in the stronger conference too. During that time with Jordan in the East, that was the strongest conference. Kobe during the start of the 2000s on, and even now it's still the toughest there was in the West. So, but saying that, where do you think, besides going against them, where do you see? Is Kobe in your top 5? Because we all know Jordan's Jordan. He's obviously in the top 5. I know some people don't put Kobe in their top 5. Some do. I put him in my top 5. Both of these players are both in my top 5. Where do you stand on that?
I have Kobe 6. Because there's some players that weren't shooting guards that I think demanded a higher rating. So I have Jordan 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have Kareem 2.
You have to,
because I think Kareem was when we talk about longevity and dominance, Kareem was dominant just about his whole career, even towards his last few years.
All 3 levels: high school, college, and pro.
He was just incredibly dominant, and so I have Kareem at 2. I have I know it's weird. I have Magic Johnson 3.
Understand.
And now Kobe is the greatest Laker. I'm just because of longevity and what he did long term. But I still think Magic, I rank him overall 3 because of just what he did to the game. Magic transferred the game to a different era, and he made it more of the showtime, more exciting. And so I have Magic at 3. I have Wilt 4. And 5, I have Hakeem Olajuwon.
Okay.
And then 6 would be Kobe, and then 7 is Tim Duncan.
Okay. What about you, D? Who you got for your top 5?
LeBron James, George Gervin.
You have George Gervin in your top 5.
Yes.
Why? I want to know.
He's a fantastic scorer. I feel like he didn't get a lot. He doesn't get a lot of the credit that he deserves when it comes to dominating the game. You know, he spent a long time on the Spurs. You know, when the Spurs first started, a lot of the numbers that he should have, he doesn't count because he became the player he was after the NBA merger. So he spent a good chunk of his career in the ABA and not the NBA. So if he would have spent the majority of his career in the NBA, it would be different. He changed scoring. He influenced the way players score nowadays. And a lot of people don't know George Gervin played with Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So LeBron James, George Gervin, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant. Is that 5? Shit, that's 5. I think that's 5.
For me, I do it a little different. I go by position. At the point, I have LeBron. I think, like just overall, especially fast skills. If I know majority of the time he played the 4. Usually, I used to have Magic there. Now I put LeBron at the 1. I put Jordan at the 2. I put Kobe at the 3. Okay, and then I actually put Shaq at the 4. Okay, and Kareem at the 5. Those are my top 5 of all time. Like I just, for me, and I didn't rank them in order, obviously, but I honestly think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest player of all time. That's who I have as number 1 of all time. Jordan, number 2. But I just think in this debate, influence overall, I mean, Jordan is great. That's who I grew up on was Kobe. So I got to take Kobe.
If I can talk about Jordan for just a moment, because I know we all saw the Last Dance and everything, but something that we don't talk about enough when it comes to Jordan was the fact that Jordan when Jordan stepped on the court, Jordan created he created the point man for defenses. He created that thing where everyone would focus on him, and that there was great players before him. You know, we've already talked about the Kareems. We talked about Magic Bird and all that stuff, and we can go all the way back. There was great players before him, but he had defenses that were specifically designed to take him out. And in an era where defenses was much more physical, he was still able to do numbers that can be matched up with the numbers today that don't have the hand checking, that don't have, that is more suitable for scorers. Yeah. And I think if Jordan was able to play in a softer defense like today, I think Jordan would have we'd be looking at him the way he scores like we do James Harden, because there would be no way to stop him. His strength, especially when he got a little lower in the block, his strength was just unbelievable for the way his body looked. He was just so strong. And the acrobatics he was able to do in the air, that would have been just deadly in today's game. And so that's why I look at Jordan and I say he's got an overall better game than Kobe, because Kobe, well, defenses could stifle Kobe. I've watched as defenses stifled Kobe. I watched as the Detroit, when they played Detroit, as they stifled Kobe and made Kobe work for every single one of his shots. I've watched the Celtics. He did not play well against the Celtics that first time around.
No, he didn't.
In fact, either both series. If you look at both series, he did not play well. Had it not been for Powell and Ron Artest, and
that's another thing. You look at Boston during that time had 4 All-Stars. Kobe had him and Powell. That's what I'm saying.
They did, but while Boston had 4 All-Stars, Lakers had 2 superstars. And
that's like right now. Right now. That's literally like right now.
And so that was my problem. I like I said, a big Kobe fan. I was rooting for Kobe. My brother-in-law on the other couch was rooting to see Kobe lose. And as we're watching this, I was kind of ashamed that Kobe was not playing the way he did against Orlando, because we know in Orlando he brought out and he was he was balling out of control. That Kobe in Orlando was deadly, but against the Celtics defense, he was stifled. Against there were certain defenses that can actually slow him down, whereas Jordan, you had to beat him up in order to slow him down. And even still, yeah, exactly. And even still, he was going to find a way to make you hurt. And so
that's where you talk about that athleticism as well. That's
right.
Another reason, right?
But that's why I give Jordan edge, because there were teams that could stifle him. In fact, even if you look at the Christmas games, remember they used to do the Christmas games and it would always be a rivalry match, whether it be I remember they put Kobe against Dwayne Wade, or they put Kobe against LeBron. Yeah. Those games, if you look at him, he didn't play too well. He often got whooped pretty bad by them, and it'd be matchups. And
Kobe
a part of
Shaq.
It was, and a part of it was because he'd end up getting stifled and he'd try to take too much on himself. Jordan, if that happened, Jordan would say, "I'm gonna rip you a new one," and so as good as Kobe is, and while he matches so much with Jordan, in a one-on-one game, I think Kobe could beat Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
he's the only player.
Right. But on a 5-on-5, if Jordan's on the floor, Jordan's team is going to win. And that's why I give Jordan the edge.
All right, let's go back to the 93? I think that's what Jordan said his best team was. And then Kobe's 2001 team. Who wins that series then? When you had a dominant Shaq, remember, dominant Shaq, and Kobe was also dominant, almost 28 a game. And I think Shaq was 35 and 15.
D, what do you think?
I think with that one, it might have to be the Bulls. Wait, because they didn't just have Shaq.
Who's going to stop Shaq? Who's going to stop Shaq?
No, that's what I'm saying. Who goes to? Whoever's playing center at that time. Come on, man.
No, it wasn't. It was Luke Longley.
Bill Cartwheel.
No, he was on the other team. The last three-peat. It was Luke Longley was on the first three-peat.
Whoever's playing center is in for a lot of work. It's going to be hard.
Barbecue chicken. Barbecue chicken.
Shaq is the ultimate mismatch.
Ultimate.
Besides
So
Wilt.
I'm going with the Lakers, man. As far as like firepower is concerned and shooting goes, I feel like it's really gonna rely mostly on Kobe and the bench. And I feel like with the Bulls, it's gonna be Jordan can shoot, Pippen can shoot, Tony Kukoc can shoot, Steve Kerr can shoot. Like a lot of the team is good. It's a lot of that Lakers team was okay. We good. We got a couple role players. We got a good bench, and we got a deep. Our starting five is not no mid. So in reality, I feel like in a real world, I would pick them. In a fantasy land, I'm picking LA because that's who I'm rocking with at the end of the day. But for the sake of the podcast, yes, I'm definitely picking Jordan if it comes to what team is going to be.
It's all about mismatch. And when you have like Kobe versus Jordan, or if they're playing against each other, I wouldn't say it fully singles them out because I think maybe Jordan, like you said, Jordan 5-on-5. But I mean that's 1A, 1B right there. It's what the others do, right?
You also have to
they kind of cancel each other out. But then, let's just speak. What's that?
Go ahead. No, I was saying, what era are they playing in?
I don't think it matters when you have Shaq.
When Shaq's on the team, it doesn't matter what era.
Let Shaq play right now in the bubble. You know how many fouls he's going to get?
That is not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about Jordan or Kobe's era.
No, that's okay. That's what I'm saying. What era? What year? What year are we saying? Because there's a year where there's certain rules that don't apply to each era.
The 2001.
It'd have to be in between. It'd have to be in between. So if we're looking at what era they would play,
because 96 to 2001 is only 5 years.
Yeah, they'd probably have to play in 98. So we're looking at that somewhere in between. So they're playing in Jordan era essentially.
Yeah.
And so, but and that being said, Shaq is the ultimate mismatch. However, I think it would go 7. It would go a full 7 because the Chicago was deep.
Yes.
Chicago was very
perimeter
deep.
Defense was nasty.
Right. And the Lakers had a good 6. I mean, they had a strong 6. And so I think that over a 7-game series, that bench would become incredibly valuable for Chicago.
Well, also, like what Shaq and Kobe were talking about when they were doing that one-on-one, Kobe was saying that they slowed the game down so much, everything else stops. You throw it into Shaq. They double. He passes out, boom, 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 boom. I think that's the key factor right there. Obviously, like Jordan's the focal point. Shaq's going to be the focal point on those teams. And Kobe was a secondary, but secondary dropping 27 a game, right? So, I mean, it's like 2 superstars versus 1 superstar. Because Pippen wasn't even a superstar at that point. Like, I never consider him a superstar. I just consider him a star, right? I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but he never got to that status because he got overshadowed by Jordan.
Yeah, he's known as the best second player. I'm like, wow, that's kind of disrespectful because Scottie was good by himself too.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I guess, yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, but
call it,
Scottie had a really poor mindset in the game, unfortunately, and he would have been a great player by himself, but we would never talk about Scottie the way we do had he not had Jordan.
Yeah.
We talk about Scottie probably the same way we talk about Reggie Miller or Charles Barkley or something like that. He'd be a really good player. He'd still be a top 50 type player, but when he was with Jordan, he had the freedom to be Scottie.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think going back to once again trying to secure my argument here, the reason why I picked Jordan over Kobe is because Jordan was always the man. In that first three-peat, Shaq was the man.
Yeah.
Kobe was the Scotty. And along going for that third championship, Kobe began to take the reins just a little bit, but still, like we said already, Shaq was the ultimate mismatch, which gave Kobe the opportunity. So I that's why I have to look at Kobe's 5 and say they're not equal to, Jordan's 6, because those first 3, he was playing second fiddle to Shaq. And granted, it was a good fiddle.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the main show.
Right.
Shaq was the main show.
Yeah. Should we see the polls? See who won?
Let's check out the polls, man.
All right, here it is. Looks like Devon, Mr. Dr. Ortiz. It looks like most of about almost 70% agreed with you.
I'll take that W. I believe I'm running on a Jordan career right now with you guys. I don't think I've lost yet.
Yeah, man, it's looking like 2-0 right now, man. I'm the one with all the L's. I feel like Sean Bradley.
Well, you always got dunked on, so.
Hey, well, I've been getting dunked on lately, man.
But yeah, I mean, like this is a 1A, 1B. It's a tough choice, either way you go. I mean, both were great in their own right. Had legendary coaches, but that's a real big debate. Would they win as much as they did without Phil Jackson?
No,
nope.
I don't think so.
Absolutely not. Literally, the coach they had. What was his name? Tim something. The coach he had before Phil got there. There was whoever the coach was.
Doug Collins.
Collins. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Hold on.
Doug Collins.
Doug Collins. Not Phil Collins.
Because Jordan was like how you said about Harden. All he was doing was scoring, and it wasn't amounting to nothing. He scored those 66 points with Boston, and I think shortly after that, they were just like, well, we got to change up the game plan. The reason why Phil Jackson is such a focal point in each of their careers, he forced him to become players, not just players, if you get what I'm saying. You're not just a scorer. You're a teammate. He taught them that being a teammate is just as important as the guy who's scoring 5 points is just as important as the guy who's scoring 80. And I felt like once they learned that, triangle, Bermuda.
Well, that's why you got guys like like Steve Kerr and Derek Fisher and Robert Ory and some of these peripheral guys that became household names. It was because of the triangle offense. And when Phil Jackson instituted this, it forced them to be players rather than scorers. It forced them to look around. It forced them to play a different way.
Yeah, most definitely. I think I don't think this was going to really go either way. I mean, you got your dub, but for being realistic, I mean, it's
a preference.
It's a preference. It's a preference. You ask somebody who grew up in the 70s and was a teenager in the 90s. Hey, I love Jordan. You got somebody like me or Tony, you know what I'm saying? We're that middle generation. We like both, but we know more, but we know what we experience. So I think all in all, this is probably the most peaceful one.
What did you think, Devon?
Hey, I thought it was pretty lively. I kind of expected Jordan to come out with that W right there. But what's interesting is, with everything that's going on with Kobe after his passing and everything, I think a lot more people took more of an appreciation to his game. And because when I was a diehard Laker fan, there was a lot of haters out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think after Kobe's passing, people began to truly take an appreciation to his game and everything that he brought to it. And I think it heightened people's view of Kobe the player. And so this was definitely awesome to be able to debate this.
because like you said, there's a lot of haters. It was more of a Shaq town back in the day, and then they're saying, "Oh, Kobe drove it, blah blah blah, and everything." And then after he passes, then they praise him. I think that's pretty messed up. How they're like trash his name when he's alive, and then he passes away. So he had a great career. We love him. It's like that's not how we do it. You're being trash for thinking like that. Like it's just for you to look good now, right? Like that's I can't stand that. Like fans like that. Yeah, it's messed up. Like you're in it all the way, no matter what. That's what it is. Kobe, like for me, it was like Kobe was everything. That's why I got into basketball. I tried to have my game after him. Play both, two-way type of player, I could shoot the three, as you know, Devon, but also pick you up, and play defense like your best player.
Defense wins games.
Offense wins games, defense wins championships. Remember that.
Hey, look, I'm going to tell you why defense wins games. In 2003, 2004, Detroit Pistons, there was not one superstar or all-star on that team. I think.
They had one all-star.
They had Sheed. Rasheed Wallace.
I think Ben Wallace was an all-star that year too. I'm gonna recant that statement. I think Ben Wallace was an all-star too because I take that back. He won defensive player of the year. What?
One
4 times
defensive
in a row?
player.
4 times in a row, right?
Something like that. Something ridiculous.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, man. MJ and Kobe, the Mamba,
for life.
And Aaron Gordon.
But D, do you want to end it?
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and end it. I'm gonna do my fantastic ending. It's your boy D. I'm here with my man T and our special guest Dr. Ortiz. And this is Saturday Morning Traffic, the greatest podcast, not the latest podcast. And we wrapping up the shooting guard edition of the full court series. And we got coming next the small forward edition of the shooters. The full court series. You gotta forgive me. I'm a little tongue tied. But
I'm gonna edit that out. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. That's good. Make sure y'all like, comment, share, subscribe, dislike. We let our haters be our motivators. Yeah, we gone. We out.